What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 2 of the 4G63 build series for my Mitsubishi Evolution 3. I did get a new microphone for my camera and I took it out of the box, threw it on. I haven't even tested it yet, so hopefully the audio is good. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. We'll find out, I guess, when I go to edit the video, so fingers crossed on that. Sunday, I have Caffeine and Octane in Atlanta. I'll be out there. So if anybody's planning on going to that meet, reach out to me on Instagram. I'd love to say what's up. And if you want to check out the Evo, it's gonna be out and about. It's actually the first big car meet for the Evo here in America, so I'm super excited about it. And from what I've been told and what I've heard, it's like one of the largest cars and coffee equivalent car meets in all of the United States. So tomorrow I'll be filming the Evo. I know you guys have been begging for Evo content. We're gonna pull it out, get it washed, get it cleaned up. I have the short shifter. I might try to throw that on tomorrow. And then Sunday morning, I'm gonna be riding out of here at like 4 a.m. I have like an hour-and-a-half road trip up to Atlanta. So busy weekend for you guys, but it's my Friday night. I got some time, so I figured why not hit up the engine. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and see if we can get a little bit further into this engine teardown. So one of the main reasons I actually replaced the microphone on my camera, I got the Rode, I don't even know the name of them. I had a small one and it was actually pretty flimsy. And there's different types of mics, but it was only like a front directional microphone. And I do a lot of vlogging from behind the camera to kind of give you guys like my POV. And that microphone, I would have to like actually angle up to make the audio somewhat decent. So this one, from the reviews and everything I researched and read, it should be like a 360 sound, so I don't have to like mess with the camera anymore. And it's a little bit more stout. So hopefully the audio, like I said, hopefully it's coming in good. But for those that didn't watch the episode last week, I'll link that down below. But a little recap, we got pretty much the turbo manifold, intake manifold, some water pipes, timing belt cover, thermostat housing, and we got into the block a little bit. I removed the girdle, and then we had a mystery piece of metal that was found in the oil pan. And come to find out, it is an oil squirter. I think it came from cylinder number 2. I'm gonna have to double check on that. And then I did a little bit more digging off camera. For those that follow me on Instagram a few days ago, I had a little bit of time and I came out here and I was actually really curious, trying to see if I could find the culprit. But I'm gonna show you guys what I'm talking about here in a second. But I do have the Evo behind me, and then the Hayabusa, not to get off track here, don't mind the garage, it's still a work in progress. But I did get a new battery. The one I had in here was maybe a year and a half old, and it's sitting on the boat for a few months. The battery was barely holding a charge. When I'd run it for a while, it'd be fine, but I went to go start it up the other day. So I put the new battery in, and the bike is actually firing up, running like a champ. Took it out, and ooh, that reminds me. So just like the Evo, I was able to ship the Hayabusa with the Japanese plate, but unfortunately, I can't drive around Georgia with a Japanese plate. So I have the official United States Georgia license plate for the bike, and the bike is good to go. Super stoked about that. It was actually pretty easy. It's a Canadian spec motorcycle, meaning it meets all like the 2002 EPA regulations and whatnot. So you can see like right here. So it was manufactured, I guess, exactly like the US spec. So there's really not a lot of headache getting this imported, because this is a 2002 and motorcycles have to abide by that 25-year import law, just like the cars. But on the NHTSA conforming list, for those that are familiar, all years of Hayabusas are actually exempt from all that good stuff. And the gauge cluster, 300 kilometers an hour, got to keep that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the engine out a little bit. I guess that works out pretty good. Put the camera on top of the Evo. And when I drained the oil, it was black. It was dark black. So I'm kind of thinking that the oil caused the issue. The block got too hot, but the oil definitely looked like it was neglected. That's never a good sign. Change your oil, folks, change your oil. So let me show you what I was talking about the other day. So I was just rotating the crank a little bit and I heard something. Well, I couldn't. You hear that? Let me see if I can get that again for you guys. You hear that? That is not a good sound. That one's on there nice and tight. 2 and 3, nice and tight. I checked those. Check this one out. I don't think that's supposed to be like that. I'm no rocket scientist, but anything moving freely like that inside an engine block, no bueno. So I think this is the culprit right here. A lot of you guys looking at the colorization on the internals were like, yeah, it definitely looks like something was spun. And I didn't actually like mess with any of the internals in the last video, but yeah. So what I think I'm gonna do today or tonight, I'm gonna try to go ahead and remove the, I don't know, the bearing caps, the rod caps right here. And then actually check the rod bearings underneath. I'm really curious of what that's gonna look like underneath. So let me go ahead and get some tools out and we'll try to get this bad boy off. Biggest thing for me right now, I don't wanna drop anything. I usually don't wear gloves, but the first 5 minutes working on this engine, my hands were so nasty. I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and throw some gloves on. All right, got the two off. Let's go ahead, put those off to the side. Now the question is gonna come off. It looks like it should just pop right off. Let me try to get something to pry it. I think we got it. I think the bearing is completely gone. There's literally no bearing. So one can assume that the bearing got super hot, and would it just melt away? Is that what's left of the bearing? Can you guys see that? That does not look good. And then here's the actual journal. So a lot of you guys recommended getting the crank removed and then sending it off to a machine shop, having them like pretty much fix it up. But I've been doing a lot of research and I think I'm just gonna go with a forged crank. Honestly, if I'm gonna do it, I kind of want to do it right. Might be a little overkill, but I'd rather have the peace of mind putting a brand new forged crank in here than trying to salvage this one and then having issues later down the road. Oh man. So correct me if I'm wrong. So this is the intake manifold side. So this would be the back of the engine. So this would be cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, left to right. Am I looking at that right? So I think this was the rod bearing on number 4 that was totally cooked. But a few of you mentioned the colorization on this one over here. It's definitely a lot darker than these two down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna pull this off and we'll check the bearing on that and see if there is a bearing there. Pretty sure there was supposed to be one here and there's nothing. And obviously it was moving around pretty freely, meaning that there's definitely a gap. So let me go ahead and try to get this off. So while I'm working on this, so I mentioned forged crank. Now my DSM guys out there, or Evo 3 guys, or Evo 7 bolt guys for that matter, I was looking at a 2.1 liter stroker. So if I run a 94 millimeter crank with 156 millimeter rods, it'd be a long rod stroker. Is that right? Am I grasping the concept of this? So the stock rods are 150, the stock crank's 88. But if I do a 94 with 156, then it should be a 2.1. From my understanding, a lot of you guys are like, we'll get a 4G64 block, yada, yada, yada. I want to save this engine. I would love knowing I have an Evo 3 engine in my Evo 3. Nothing against a GSX, GST, an Eclipse GS engine, any of the 4G63 or 4G64s from the DSM cars. I just don't want a Franken engine, if that makes sense. I kind of want to just know that I have a powerhouse and I have an Evo 3 engine. Even though it's all the same, you guys are probably like, wow, you're dumb. That's just me. And while I'm in here, if I'm gonna send the block off and get it professionally done and then rebuild everything, I want some good stuff inside here. And then we're obviously gonna take care of the head as well. My power numbers, I don't know if I talked about it in the last video. I think 400 would be a really good number. I've been looking at the Force Performance, the FP. I've been looking at their 68 HTA. It's a direct fitment bolt-on turbo, and then the Force Performance turbo manifold. So I was thinking about going that route. It's a little bit bigger than the 16G that I have in here. I think it's a 51 flow rate. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But FP turbo, FP manifold. The head, we'll throw some cams in there, some mild cams. Obviously redo all the seals and whatnot. And then in here, we'll do forge internals. I was thinking G4 link for the tuning. And I think it should be capable of 400 horsepower to the wheels. It's kind of like my magic number. I'm not going for some like 1,000 horsepower crazy build, but I think 400 on this car that weighs what, 2,700 pounds, all-wheel drive, would be a total blast. And I would just like to give some of the muscle cars out here a little run for their money on the track, of course. So on the other one, I was able to get a little bit of leverage underneath here. I'm gonna have to figure something out on this. There's probably an easier way to do this, and you guys are probably laughing at me right now, but I don't have a manual. I should have a manual, but I don't. Okay. I think a little rubber mallet might do the trick. What happens if this just falls down though? Is it the end of the world? Does it just fall in the piston? Not too worried about it. Oh, there we go. Now I got a little leverage. Boom. There is a bearing under here. Look at that. But the colorization on this thing was definitely getting hot. Wish my camera would focus. Let me see here. Can you guys see that? There we go. I don't think it's supposed to look like that. Looking at it, it looks like it rotated. You can see the line right here. I think one of these is supposed to be over 180 degrees on the journal. And then the other one, 180 degrees on the other side underneath, but it looks like it rotated. I mean, it's still here, it hasn't sheared off, but that is black. And black, to me, looks like burnt oil or just a lot of heat getting there. So this one was definitely shot. This one, I mean, look at that. Look how bad that looks. So I'm wondering if I can rotate the crank now, if we could check out the other two. Somebody did reach out and say, hey, you cannot take the crank out. Excuse me, you cannot take the pistons out without removing the head. I don't think I'm gonna dive into the head tonight, but I do think I'm gonna try to work on getting all of this off. But I heard this is a pain in the butt, but I do have a rubber mallet. Sometimes that'll do the trick. All right guys, so I spun the engine around and get a little bit of light on this side, and I'm gonna try to remove the crank pulley. However, anytime I try to spin these bolts, the pulley and the crank wanna rotate. So I'm gonna see if an impact wrench, if I could hit it real quick. Oh, that actually did work. For the 12mm bolts, there's 4 of them. And number 4. Oh, look at that. So there's only 4 bolts holding the pulley on here. I thought this was part of the assembly, but I guess not. Now we have access to these bolts. I see what we're doing. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 5. I think we're gonna have to get this out the way. We got the crank pulley. One step closer. And we've got another pulley right here. And these are 10mm bolts. This came out pretty easily. All right, just like that. And once you remove this pulley, this one comes off right after. What do we got now? All right, let's try to get this out the way. There's 2. Look at that. You don't even have to remove that bolt. You just remove the 3 that are mounted over here on the exhaust side, and comes off in like a nice little assembly just like that. All right, what's next? Already got this kind of out of the way. I think we can get the actual timing cover off now. So let me go ahead and try to do that. What are you, 10? Magical 10 mil. And one more. And there is the timing belt cover. Go ahead and put that over here. Try to keep all the nuts and bolts together. I've got Ziploc bags and a Sharpie. I'm gonna label everything. See if we can get a closer look now. So we've got, now the balance shaft, guys, is that here? And a lot of you said, hey, remove the balance shaft. I read that there's like a little bit of performance increase and it could increase the longevity of the motor. You just might have more engine vibration, but definitely remove it. Then we got the water pump. This thing looks super old, so that'll definitely be getting replaced. Obviously the timing belt, but let me see what the next move is. Water pump. Should we try to get this out the way and take a look inside and see how that's looking? And then the actual oil pump. This is the oil pump, right guys? This whole thing right here. I know I gotta get the oil pump out the way. So let me go ahead and work on maybe getting the tensioner, the water pump, whatever else I can pretty much pull off. Because ultimately it's gonna have to get stripped down anyways. So right now I'm mainly focused on the block. See if the impact wrench can do me any justice over here. I really don't know the history of this engine either. I know the previous owner of the engine, and I think he had his Evo for maybe 6 months, maybe for a year. But other than that, he bought it from a dealer in Japan that I actually featured, and I actually looked at the car that this engine was in a while back when it was actually kind of in the market. But that's all I know. The car came from mainland Japan. Don't know how many owners it had. Don't know when the last time any of this stuff was replaced. But like we've been saying, it's all getting replaced anyway, so not worried about it. Not worried about the condition right now. That bolt, that is nasty looking. Coming off the water pump. This slides right off. And now I have access to, this should be the final bolt for the water pump. And there we go. Oh, doesn't look too bad. I was expecting the inside of this to be like super corroded, nasty, but no, the coolant looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Does that look normal? The outside obviously is super dirty, but inside looks pretty fresh. All right, water pump check. Just keep steamrolling along. Let's see what else we got. See if we can get the oil filter housing out of here as well. So what do you guys do on your Friday nights? You know, everything going on in the world, it's not a bad idea to get yourself a spare engine to work on. Kills time. Social distancing right now. I think everything's good to be removed on this, but there's definitely a seal right here. Time for the Thor hammer action. Yep, there we go. Oil filter housing has been removed. Let's go ahead and take a quick second to see exactly where I'm at. So you guys are tracking. Some of you guys are probably like, man, this is the most boring video I've ever seen. But I'm also doing it as like a documentary for myself. No, it sounds a little weird. I don't like the word documentary. I'm doing it mainly like when I go to put back everything, I can look at my videos and be like, oh, this goes there. Probably not, but I'm gonna have to get a manual here pretty soon. But look inside here. That looks pretty grimy. There's a lot of debris in there. But I'm gonna keep going. Ooh. I don't know if the camera, if you guys can see that. That looks nasty. Ugh. So much for the water pump. I mean, the water pump stayed clean, but that port, that looks pretty rough. Now, one of the things I've been curious about is actually like getting the block cleaned. Is that something I can do on my own? Or should I just try to like do what I can with, you know, maybe some brake cleaner and then send it off and have it done professionally? Obviously I want to have it done professionally, but if there's something I can do ahead of time, so where it's a minimal job for somebody else, but I know as far as like machine work and all that, I don't have the means to do that. So it's going to be going to somebody else's hands for a little while. Yeah, I was hoping the impact would be able to just break these free. Now, the question is, I can get the belt off. I'm not worried about that. But how do I break this free without rotating the entire crank assembly? Can I use some leverage, jam something up in there? I mean, I have a belt. Is it really gonna damage anything? I mean, this belt's pretty loose right now. I could probably pull it off pretty easily. All right. And here is the balance shaft belt. Seems like it's in pretty good condition. I don't know how worn out these get compared to actual timing belts, but it's not ripped or frayed or anything. So it's going in the trash nonetheless. But how do I get the whole oil pump assembly? Thinking maybe these all stay with, no, that can't be. We'll keep digging. Kind of stuck right now, guys. I don't know how to get this out. Well, that little piece just came off. Think I'm kind of hitting a wall here though. I don't know. Ah, wait. I missed one. I don't know if this is an approved method in the DSM community, but I'm going to take a pry bar. I think I can get some leverage under here. Nope. That definitely didn't work. Jeez. This thing is torqued on here like crazy. So I'm kind of at a standstill with the engine right now. I think I'm gonna call it a night. I got a good amount of stuff off and the block is definitely looking a lot more bare than it was when I started. But how do I get these off? There's gotta be a trick. I think I read somewhere for people trying to do timing with the engine in their car, but for those that have actually removed their block, what else can I remove from here? Do these three come off? Is this part of the block? Am I missing something here, or is this the actual oil pump assembly and the whole thing comes off? I don't want to go hitting too many things with a hammer trying to break things free. That's kind of where I'm at right now. All right, guys, before I wrap up the video, kind of do a little summary of everything. So this was the rod cap that had a bearing, but you can actually see right here, there is a little bit of metal shaving, I think from the bearing that was on there. Did I ever remove the bearing? No, I couldn't remove the bearing. It's all twisted on there. Here's the one that did not have a bearing. Why is it shinier though? That's my question. Is it shinier because it was just like freely spinning on the crank and the crank was just polishing it up? And this one, I don't know. Regardless, they both don't look good. And then the oil squirter, I actually removed it. I kind of wanted to reunite the two pieces together. And there we go. So this was the initial find, plain operation in the oil pan. That all goes together. A lot of you guys said that oil squirters are not necessary in the engine. Like, they do help out, but it's not a deal breaker when it comes to something like this. do you guys think that it doesn't make sense? Because this was in cylinder, if I'm looking at it right, 2. It was either 2 or 3. And these are from 1 and 4. So that doesn't make sense, right? Like, it would make sense if the oil squirter from 1 and 4 had broken off and maybe wasn't providing enough lubrication for the oil, and these got super hot, and then one just like sheared the bearing away. What I'm trying to get at, is it safe to say we found our issue? Now, going forward with the actual engine, what else can I inspect, or does it take a professional eye? Like, can I just get a bunch of cans of brake cleaner once I get everything out of here and then just spray it down? And am I looking for any, like, I don't know what I'm looking for. That's what I'm trying to get at. And you guys definitely have shed a lot of light and given me some insight, even more confidence going forward with everything. Maybe a little bit too much confidence. I don't want to get ahead of myself by any means, but I definitely want to keep pushing forward. I still have faith in the engine. A lot of you guys gave me a lot of positive vibes saying that the block, you think it's still good to go, which made me happy, because my biggest thing was, man, I got this engine and I'm diving deeper and deeper and deeper and finding more and more and more issues. And then as a group consensus, a lot of you guys say, hey, the engine's shot, you wasted your money, there's no saving it. That's what I don't want to have happen. But from what I see, it looks like it was, obviously a big issue, but minor issue. And the crank, a lot of you guys had concern for the crank. Like I said, the crank, it's gonna go. It's gonna go. I'm definitely gonna put the money into forged internals. But for 400 horsepower, if you guys have recommendations, a lot of you have already kind of given me, hey, XYZ will get you to your power number. All right, guys, that is it for episode number 2. So if you're still sticking around, I really appreciate it. Hopefully the video wasn't too boring, and I'm definitely looking forward to some of y'all's comments and feedback. Constructive criticism, throw it all at me. If I'm doing something crazy, let me know. I only want to get better at it. On a side note, I just hit 60K. You guys are awesome. I can't believe it. I can't believe you guys actually watch my stuff. I cannot thank you enough. So I'm going to be doing some giveaways here really soon. Stay tuned for that. And like I said, Atlanta on Sunday. Caffeine and Octane, first meet for the Evo. I'm super stoked. So if you're going to be there, come find me, say what's up. Till then, I'll catch you on the next one. Later.